Hey Sales Hackers, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to sign up for the upcoming Sales Stack Conference and Sales Hacker workshops near you. Now, on to your selected webinar.
So let's let's kick it off here. So we got Allie. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Allie Covarrubias, and I manage the sales recruiting team at Box. I've been here for about 4 years. I love salespeople, recruited for all kinds of positions, but have a very soft place in my heart for them. And I'm super excited to be here to give some advice from what it looks like on the other side of the phone when you're out interviewing or considering new companies.
Awesome. Farlan.
Yeah, hey, Farlan, Dowell with Rainforest QA. So Rainforest QA is essentially a phenomenal new leap in QA testing technology. We've got about 50,000 crowdsourced testers behind an API. So not an incremental win in technology, but a plus one, as Peter Thiel would like to say. So I joined about 4 months ago as the first rep. I've been VP of sales at previous positions and am now head of sales and hiring for everything from sales, engineering to account execs, SDRs, and director of sales operations. So this should be a good conversation. Hope there's some awesome talent out there, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Saad.
Impressive background, Farlan. Mine actually is too different than yours. I joined ZenPayroll, which is a modern, delightful payroll solution, as the first sales hire almost 2 years ago, and now I'm getting a chance to build and lead our channel sales team. Have a bit of an odd background. I haven't grown up in sales. I grew up in finance. I was an investment banker at Goldman Sachs for about 5 years, and then worked at a VC fund in Palo Alto covering financial technology, where I developed my passion for payroll products.
Passion for payroll products.
I'm passionate about getting paid.
J-Ry. J-Ry, can you hear us? Looks like we lost J-Ry again. Ryan, can you hear us?
Hey, can you hear me now, Max?
Yeah, we got you. Introduce yourself real quick.
Okay. Sorry about that. Having technical difficulties this morning, but my name is J. Ryan Williams. I'm the Vice President of Sales at LeadGenius. Been with the company, this is within my first month. Previous to this, I was the first sales manager at Admiral, and then also have worked at several other startups. This is my 5th startup, but I oversee all sales and sales operations here, and excited to share kind of how my career path unfolded. I had actually a whole first half of my career was working in nonprofits and fundraising for Boys and Girls Clubs United Way, and I was actually a 7th grade social studies teacher way back when. So kind of fell into the sales thing a little different than I think what most people would expect, but glad to share some of those kind of war stories as well.
Which is great, because we got a really diverse group in terms of experience working with different types of companies, different stages, different types of salespeople. Everything from SMB to enterprise and in between and beyond. So we should have some really good information. So today we'll dive into just kind of building a personal brand as a top salesperson, what goes into that, maximizing your earning potential, obviously negotiating the best deal possible, and ways to reflect yourself as the best person for the position, and in turn get more out of the companies that you're dealing with, secrets to accelerating career growth, and avoiding common pitfalls when thinking about joining a new company. And so one of the first questions I wanted to ask everyone, and I think we'll go Allie, Farlan, J-Ry, Saad in alphabetical order, first name to start with. But what do you look at when you're considering a new company, joining a new company as a rep?
So one of the things I think that what you should look for, whether you're deciding to leave your current company or just fresh in the market, has to do with leadership. What's the strength of the CEO? What's the strength of the board? Leadership as far as funding goes. I personally, one of my early companies was Salesforce, and I was actually working for Mark Benioff directly, and still get goosebumps when I think about what a charismatic visionary he was. And moving over to Box, I get the goosebumps. I think the same way about Aaron Levy. And there's all kinds of challenges that any company at any stage is going to face. And when I think about why I've stayed here for so long or why I stayed there for so long is I absolutely believe in the vision of that leader. So for me, a first box you want to check, do you believe in the leadership?
Yeah. And yeah, so CEO, that's number one for you.
Gotta love your CEO.
What about you, Farlan?
Yeah, so I'm a startup guy. I've never worked at a Fortune 500, so I wish I could have worked with Mark. That would have been awesome. I look at it through a little bit of a different lens. So when I'm looking at a startup, for sure you want to look at funding, and you want to look at where's the smart money at. I can look at product all day and say, oh, this is going to be the next billion-dollar idea, but the fact of the matter is there's guys that are paid to do that 24/7. They're called VCs. So follow the smart money, right? Leadership, the lens that I look at it through is a couple things. First, does the company have a scientist in the basement? That's what I call it. And this is like, who's the guy that's thinking a little bit differently? Because to do startup and to start a successful startup, you got to be a little bit bonkers. So, what does that talent look like, right? Who's the guy that's the ace in the hole and who's really thinking differently and can really blow it out of the water? That's one of the lenses I look at it through. And then obviously, are they product first? Are they eng first? Or are they sales first? And those are two very different company dynamics. I've done them both. So I love this company because these guys will live and die by product. You should see some of the Slack conversations that we see. It's incredible. And then the other thing that I would look at, just from a startup perspective, is what are leads like? What's product market fit like? And we can talk about this afterwards. Super, super important if you're joining as a salesperson. If you're joining as a BD person, you want to develop out the product, great. Join when they don't have any deals on the table. But I would look at what are the inbounds like? What do the current deal flow look like? How many have been closed? Have the founders closed them? Have the founders gone through the pain of selling those deals? Do they know what those deals entail to get closed? Are they going to be an advocate for sales? Do they know what sales is all about? Those are a few that I would throw out there, and we can definitely expand on some of those afterwards.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think we're definitely on the right track here. You want to choose great leadership. Farlan, I definitely agree with you in terms of when you get to a startup, you want to make sure the deal flow is there. As a sales rep, you don't want to join too early. Actually, the best career advice I got was from a guy named Chip Skovic, who's over at TubeMogul. He told me once that as a salesperson, you want to look to make sure that you're not too early and not too late, because at startups, there's just a perfect window of opportunity where you can actually get in, do a high volume of deals, and the more times that you're getting in the batter's box, the more you'll know, one, whether or not this is the right thing for you, but also have a chance to get in and have a successful sales career, which will open up doors to lots of different things. The one piece that I would add to that, just around timing, is to understand how the team is built. A lot of salespeople, when they're interviewing at startups, because it may be your first sales move or second, it's early enough that you may not know to look for what their sales equation is around number of people that are working on the deal size, and then number of people that are working to support it, right? So product market fit is a great thing to look at too, but what I mean by this equation is if they have an SDR, factor in what you think that SDR salary is, and go ahead and make an educated guess. If you as a rep are thinking, hey, this is going to be a career opportunity where I could potentially be making 100K, 150K, 200K, whatever that number is, factor that in too. And then when you're in the conversation in the interview, instead of saying, hey, can I get rich here and where are you guys going, which are never good interview questions to ask, start by asking, what's the average deal size? How many people are doing deals of that size? How many deals a month does your average rep do? And you can back out from there to know, can they actually afford the SDR, the 200K AE, and the super technical sales engineer or customer success manager that's backing into there. And at least you want to be at least semi-sure that their model works. Otherwise, to start going back to Allie's feedback and question leadership.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything said so far. On the product side, I do think it's very important to take a look at either the Net Promoter Score or get a better sense of what the customers are saying. On the people side, I totally agree. Charisma is incredibly important. Both Mark and Aaron are investors in ZenPayroll, and I can definitely attest to the charismatic nature that both of them bring to the table here. The two things I would mention that I think are important to think about, one is market size. So are you going to go join a company that can become a $1 billion business? Can it become a $50 billion business? On the payroll side, for example, there's 6 million businesses in the US that will always need payroll, whether the times are good or the times are bad. That's one way that I evaluated this opportunity. The second thing is culture. That is something that's incredibly important at ZenPayroll. We think a lot about how do we act, how do we carry ourselves, not when we hit our numbers, but when we miss our numbers. And that's how you should look at the sales leadership at the company. Really, really important to get a better grasp of that.
Yeah. Yeah, those are all great answers, and we covered a lot there, which was fantastic. Sometimes on panels it's kind of a lot of the same stuff, but that was pretty awesome for the first question. So we covered a lot of ground on that, which is great because that's when you're deciding whether to go to a new company. What if you're at an existing company? How do you know when it's time to switch? How do you know when it's time to go on to the next thing? Let's go backwards. Saad, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so the simple litmus test for me is if you are not excited when you wake up in the morning, if you're not jumping out of bed to get to work, it's time to make a switch.
Yeah, and but is it just on your, personal kind of feeling, or, what if you're super excited but the company's going down the toilet? I mean, I guess how do you gauge the rest of the company and other people that are there, and besides for just that? I mean, that's probably the best reason, right? But what else would you say?
Yeah, I think that how you're feeling is going to be a function of your feelings towards the product, towards the growth, towards the people at the company. There's a number of reasons that you can stop being excited, but we tell our reps all the time that we are more concerned about your happiness, and our fundamental belief is that happy people make better colleagues. So if payroll, for example, is not a very sexy product, and it becomes tough to be very passionate when you're selling it. And if you're not passionate about it when you're selling it on the phone, people are going to see right through that, right? The buyer's journey has changed significantly, over the last decade. People are very well aware of your product, your features, your value prop by the time they get on the demo. So what a sales rep does on a demo has changed a lot. So we always go back to this idea of you have to be excited about it, you have to be passionate, and if not, then maybe it's time to talk about taking the next step, kind of beyond ZenPayroll.
Yeah.
I'd say from my perspective on a sense of when it's time to move on, I like to think about it in terms of when you get to a role during your first couple weeks after you get to know the position. Go ahead and think through what you want your resume to say. Right? What is your resume going to say in 18 months to 2 years? We know that this day and age we don't have the careers our fathers did where you can be at the same company. My dad is 40 years at the same telecom company. That's not going to happen for us. But think about the 2-year chapter. What does this look like? And then evaluate based on if you're on that right course. If you're off course, and you're never going to get it right when you forecast what does my life look like in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But if you're off course, make sure you're going off course the right direction. Am I off course because I'm learning new skills? Am I off course because the sales opportunity wasn't there and I went down the BD route? Am I off course because I got exposure to marketing and I like doing that more? Those are all good things. If you're off course because you're not getting a chance to shine because you aren't getting the job done, or you're not, you got a product that's not something you can learn to sell, then it's also time to start looking around also. But a good sales professional has feelers out to understand what else is going on in their industry. And that will also reveal whether or not there's something that you could be more excited about. That said, as a sales management professional, I look at it as, if we've got people that are constantly sticking their head up like a groundhog and looking around trying to figure out, is that guy that got the best deal, or I wish I had that guy's job or that guy's title, that's really hard to manage around too. And so I'm looking for folks in the interview that are coming and saying, hey, look, I know how to go get the job done, put my head down for 2 years and go crush and And that's a person that I'm actually more excited about having the career development conversation with, as Saad was talking about. Like, I do want everybody on my team to be happy, but happiness isn't going to come from looking around all the time. So try to accomplish the goals that you set out to, and if you're not doing that, find a mentor or a manager to help you figure out which direction you're off course.
Yep.
Nice. So I look at three things if I'm looking to switch a company, and I've learned this. I wish I knew this a long time ago, but this is what I've learned. So once you start seeing key founders and key leaders exit the company, in most situations that I've seen in startups, that is not a good thing. So that's the first point. The second one is, if you catch yourself saying, or you catch people saying, when this happens, when this product release happens, then we'll be doing better. Once we do this, then things will turn around. I've rarely seen that actually happen. And then the third thing is, if you're showing up for work and you're faking it, and you can use fun as a factor or proxy, whatever you want, but as soon as you start having to fake it, that's when it really becomes unfun. Now, all that said, I really like the previous answer from Jay Ryan, which would actually trump all three of these things. If you're just out for your career goals and your career progression, which you have to be sometimes, you could stay at a company like that if you're going to get a year's worth of awesome experience, closing deals that's going to take you to the next new level. So always shades of gray, but those are the three that I would say.
Yeah, I'll take it from a recruiter perspective so from internal mobility and talking to people who are considering leaving their company to come to ours, considering leaving our company to go somewhere else. There's the known fact that people don't stay in companies for 40 years. That's fine, but there is still a stigma attached to job hoppiness out there that you need to be wary of. And the reason why job hoppiness matters, like, one, you need to be true to yourself. That's fine. You need to feel the passion, feel the excitement. At the same time, you need to be respectful of the fact that if a company's hiring you, they're investing money in you. And it is about, especially as a salesperson, to deliver on your promise as well. And you're coming there to generate revenue. You're coming in to drive in business. So if you can do that and you stick it out for a year or 2 years, then you've kind of earned your way into that next company. And you will be much more attractive to the next potential hiring manager if you delivered on that promise. So even though you may not be super excited and, gosh, there's a shiny object out there, my friend joined this company, I joined that one, keep that in mind, that your performance and whatever it was that made you decide to choose the company that you're in today is going to be judged as you're being evaluated by your next company. I take all of my people, internal and a lot of external candidates, through an exercise called a 4-stacked ranking, where what I get out of them is what's really important and why in their next move. I use Post-it notes, I make them line them all up, out of 12 things that are important, and help them really evaluate if they can get that in their current company, or while evaluating the next company, make sure they're being true to themselves with why they would accept an offer. So I think that, again, there's so much happening in Silicon Valley and across the country, especially in tech, that you can really get, you'd be made to feel very unsatisfied and unhappy if you look at a lot of external factors. So I like to get people straight on their compass with what is important to them, keeping in mind that they committed to a current role, they need to deliver, and that hiring managers are going to be looking at what they actually did. So if it's a question of you're looking to leave because you can't perform, you better be real clear on what is it that you can control and talk about that in your interview versus blaming it all on, the leadership, the marketing, the this, the that, because it could be a really big turnoff as you're out there trying to get to your next awesome destination.
Yeah, that's definitely a good call. And I think, alongside the career, goal type stuff that you have at a company, making sure that you're there for long enough on the resume side of things, and then accomplish things that you can tell a story about, because there's that gap in between just like leaving it off completely and having something that, a good story that you can tell about that experience. And if you fall within that gap where you were there for a certain amount of time and didn't accomplish what you had set out to accomplish, I think that's going to look worse than having it on there in the first place, right? So, so we considered what to look at, what to consider when going to a new company and switching companies. But talking from like a hiring manager standpoint right now, why don't you tell us a little bit about your best reps and like what traits they had that you saw right off the bat in some of those reps, or what things they did that won you over, and maybe even talk about a little bit about like someone you saw that you thought was amazing that didn't turn out to be, and then someone that you came across that you were kind of maybe like a little skeptical about that turned out to be incredible, and like what that makeup looked like of that individual. Allie, we'll start with you on this one.
So because I represent the hiring managers, especially in that initial screen, I'm listening for positive attitude, but I'm also really listening for preparation and research and homework. The way that I think about every stage of the interview is that this is basically a sales call. And if you've got a prospect on the phone, they just picked up, you've got 2 minutes to hook them, I think it's really important that rep demonstrates that they did research on the business. So I think that translates throughout the entire interview process and then how they'll do in the role ultimately. So I'm listening for good, positive energy. I can hear if someone's smiling or not. If you're new to phone interviewing, get a mirror and watch yourself. Like, we could see our video. Hey, I'm talking, I'm up here, but if you didn't even see me, you would hear that coming through on the phone. And do your preparation before you talk with that recruiter. Research the company, read the latest articles, whatever press has been about them. Try out the product. Breaks my heart. We have a freemium product. Anyone can use it. It's for consumers and businesses. You need to sign up for it. Know what you're getting into. And likewise, do that with the prospects that you're calling into as a salesperson. So those are two things that I listen for on behalf of my managers.
Awesome.
Nice. So what I was really surprised by when I hired a rep that I was really excited about and didn't work out was that this rep was from a big name tech company. And big name tech company logos and hiring folks from there seems awesome. But in reality, if you're hiring them at a startup with sub 10 sales folks, there's going to be a few changes that they might not be used to. The first one is when they pick up the phone and they say, "Hi, I'm calling from XYZ company," everyone's like, "Oh yeah, cool, I know you guys. Oh yeah, I saw you in the news yesterday. Cool, let's talk." And then now when they're calling from XYZ startup that nobody's ever heard of, that's a different conversation. And that's a huge factor. The second is when you go into a big sales organization, a big machine, they've got training, they've got operations, they've got support resources, they've got a playbook. And if you go to a startup, a lot of that stuff needs to be built. So is that person going to be able to thrive in an environment where it's a lot of do it yourself and figure it out? So that was kind of interesting. Now, not saying there's no infrastructure and there's no training, but it's much different from an infrastructure perspective. So for those out there looking at the next company, not all startups and not all tech companies are created equal at all from a sales perspective. So you really need to drill down and figure out what's going to work for you. Now, I've hired reps that one of them was a coordinator and came up in the sales team, became the #1 performer. And that's just a good, curious, scrappy, coachable guy that just killed it. Became the #1 rep. He was 24 years old. He was blowing guys out of the water that had 10 years SaaS experience. Why? Because he didn't have a bunch of bad habits. So it's really incredible what does work and what I've learned. And there's a pretty confirmed checklist that I have for startups at this stage of who's gonna thrive, but you can always be surprised.
Yeah, of course.
One of the things I think is great about the interview process is that how someone does a job search and interview is really a lot like how they're going to run their career as a salesperson. right? When I ask people what brought them to us, to hear how they think about prospecting. What is the use case they're trying to solve right now? They're trying to solve a job that they're really excited to have after school. Are they organized? Are they making a list? Are they ranking things? Are they spending more time doing more research on the companies that are more interesting to them? Those are things that I'm looking for. And one of the things I think is interesting, Allie, your comment about using the freemium product. I did 268 interviews at AdRoll over the course of about 9 months when we initially first started to hit a point of inflection. All while the product was still very, very much freemium, and only one person had ever created an account and looked at the product themselves and logged in. And I think that's really funny because there's so much tech freemium out there, and so I would accept someone who say, oh yeah, well I haven't used your product, I've used something similar. I get why they would know they can't obviously run an advertising campaign for themselves in the job search, but with Box, I mean, I would imagine for sure, like, use the product. I've coached friends through the process who have been applying to Google with their Yahoo email address. It's like it's not going to work. You gotta actually be excited about. Don't go through the motions, but be excited about the company that you're looking at, and know why you're excited about them, and then execute your job search the same way that you would prospect into somebody who's got a good market fit with what you're selling.
It's really funny you say that. We look for email addresses from candidates. So if someone's emailing from an @Hotmail email address, that gets put in a slightly different pile. Just for us, it doesn't signal a very high tech type of a candidate. But there's 3 things that we are generally testing for in our interview process. One is self-improvement. We're really focused on bringing on people to the team who want to make themselves better, whether it's personally or professionally. The second thing that we're judging for is self-awareness. Very, very important characteristic in sales, especially on an inside sales team where you don't have the benefit of looking at any facial expressions. You have to hear the tone of people's voices and understand what your next step should be on the call or on the virtual demo. And then the last point that we're really looking for is self-starter. And to Farlan's point, a startup environment is incredibly different than some of the top SaaS companies. I know that personally we were really excited about bringing on a top rep from a top SaaS company, and they came into this environment, and just the unstructured nature of it, the uncertainty of it, created an environment for the rep where they couldn't thrive. We've seen other examples of people come in who maybe don't have that 2 to 3 years plus experience of going through a training program that's considered gold standard, but they have the pure work ethic of just out hustling everyone around them. And we love that aspect. So those are the 3 things we focus on: self-improvement, self-awareness, and are they a self-starter?
Okay. And is there any one thing that anybody's ever done with you in like maybe a job process, whether in the application process or the interview or anything, that's been kind of out of the ordinary, but for some reason worked? Anything weird that you can think of?
So I think the weirdest interview I've had in my career has been at ZenPayroll. I met Josh Reeves, our CEO. We were scheduled to speak for an hour, and I thought that here's like Forbes 30 under 30, Stanford undergrad engineering, master's in engineering from Stanford, Mayfield fellow, incredibly sharp guy. So this is going to be a technical interview. We ended up chatting for 2 hours, sitting on the balcony, and for about an hour and a half of it, we talked about my dad. We talked about my motivations in life, my values, and that was just, I walked away from that interview thinking that this is someone I want to work for, somebody who cares so much about, the first salesperson that they're bringing on. The odd part, Max, is that the interview process started with that 2-hour session with Josh, and it ended 4 months later after several demos, several presentations. Halfway through the process, I was very frustrated, and I called some of my mentors and I said, you know what, this is ridiculous. 4 months is too long. And they said, perhaps, but don't you want to work for a group of people who care so much about the first salesperson on the team? And I kind of sat back and thought, yeah, that's a good point. And the rest is history. It's been an awesome 2 years here.
4 months. That's wild. It's a good thing you weren't in a rush.
Wow.
J-Ry, anything with you? I know you guys hired a lot of people at AdRoll.
The strangest interview from the interviewee or interviewer?
Either way, let's hear some stories.
So I'll tell you a couple of things. I mean, I'm always looking for, I think Saad may have said self-awareness is a critical trait. That's definitely a critical trait for me too, because if you can't read the room that you're going into, I can't comfortably send you in and feel like I don't have to have a sales manager with you. And one of my favorite interview stories isn't unfortunately that exciting, but it was somebody who had been told no about 4 months prior, and had got themselves back in by using a different recruiting service. We had multiple recruiting services we were using as we started to scale up before we built the inside recruiting team, and in his world, he thought he was getting another shot. So he never brought that up to anybody he talked to. He never said, hey, here's why I wasn't a fit. And so he came in just guns a-blazing, like really excited about it, but with the same issues that were present, I picked up on the first 2 minutes, and actually didn't remember him, but I remembered his answer to one of my first questions, because it was almost similar every time I would meet somebody. And I asked him point blank, I was like, hey, did you interview here before? He's like, yeah. I was like, did the recruiter tell you why it wasn't a good fit? And he told me exactly, he had the perfect feedback. And I said, did any of that change? He's like, no. But I got a chance to, go around the process with somebody else, so I figured you'd like the hustle. And I did not like the hustle. I could see why that would be really, it seems like such a good idea. They're like, oh, they're gonna love that I'm a hustler, but it didn't sit well with me at all. So that was one of the stranger ones. I've seen some people do well when they have a bad interviewer just before me. We typically do a 4 to 5 interview panel here, and people who can regroup. I put that in the same column as Saad's self-awareness comment, that if you can regroup after a bad pitch, if you can regroup after a bad interview, you get a lot of points with me too. And so there was a guy who managed to just have a total disaster of an interview, and he was really super appropriate with the way he asked for another one. And we gave him a second chance, and he was one of the best reps for the time period that he was working with us. So I think anything could happen. I mean, that's kind of the fun of sales and the fun of interviewing.
That's great. Farlan.
Yeah, I've seen lots of crazy shit. None of it's worth recounting, really. It's not. I've seen the bizarrest of bizarre shit, like reps trying to close you in, like,
I hate that.
an interview, bringing like teddy bears and swag from the company that they're at, and just bizarre
What was
stuff.
the logic on that one they gave you? Anything?
It wasn't even worth asking. If I spent a minute more on it, that would have been another minute that I lost. You don't have to be crazy. I've seen a lot of SDRs send out like poems and stuff as like an engagement tool, and I get all the emails. And I did have a candidate that did send us a poem, and it was attention-getting. But I think there was a lot of good stuff behind that too, with what the candidate did bring to the table. But you really don't have to be crazy. Just find the hiring manager on LinkedIn and send them a note. Figure out their email address. Just take the steps that you would take in prospecting and finding that lead and finding that decision maker that you would in your job anyways. It's shocking to me the amount of resumes that I get and applications that I get through our website. It is the most passive, like, just terrible form of engagement for a job, in my opinion. Just find me on LinkedIn and send me a message. Find my email and send me a message. I mean, this is not rocket science. I mean, go after it. I mean, even if you're a sales engineer, I mean, that's baseline from an SDR or an AE. I mean, just get a hold of me. Sales exec, sales ops should potentially do the same thing too. So it's not you don't have to get crazy.
So I can't name names here, but I have two people that applied to Box so many times for every single position that when I brought on a couple of new recruiters, their name somehow got brought up, and they're like, they did that at my company too, my company. So it's kind of like, you going into a bar and hitting on every single person there. It doesn't work. You really need to go back to that self-awareness piece and know what's your type and go after it. I had actually, unfortunately, a very senior person and a not so senior person make it all the way to the end recently, and they made some totally racial slur at the end with the senior most manager, and we all were just dumbfounded So you can get lured into, I think, a really comfortable place, but don't ever, ever let your manners drop. That's key. And then one of my other favorite ones was actually a response, and I wanted to hire this guy after he wrote back to one of our many rejections. When we reject, we will usually do it for the specific role. If they reply again, the next specific role. And if we start to see a pattern, it's like, look, I'm sorry, your background just isn't right for Box. And this guy wrote back saying, like, I'd like to thank you for your repeated messages to let me know that I'm not a fit for Box, including this one. That wasn't for a specific position, just simply no. It's as if you were telling me a house cat would be better at this job. I like cats. That had me in tears. I'm like, a house cat would be better. That's awful. I'm so sorry. But anyway, we didn't hire him either. But I do wish him all the best. But yeah, I mean, it's awful, some of the candidate calls you get. And going to what Saad was saying about culture fit, I think that everyone really thinks that they've got the best personality. They'd be a great culture ad. But they're really not, and that comes through in the process with just weird little quirks and tics and angry moments and racial slurs or just strange things come out in interviews. It's like dating.
And it doesn't matter what role you're going for. If you're not a culture fit, you're not a culture fit, and that's something that, at least in the startup world, is something that's really important to these companies. And so, if you're looking for a job at one of these companies, it's probably better to spend your time going after something else and maybe doing your research a little bit better the next time instead of barking up that same tree over and over again. So it makes a lot of sense. We have a question that just came in. We've got a couple questions here. What questions should you ask to determine if they are great sales leaders? So this is not for hiring like maybe an individual rep or for somebody a little bit higher up. How do you figure out if somebody can really lead a team? Allie, we'll start with you.
Number one question talks about, have you fired people and why? I'll go to the dark side on this one. It's great that you've coached and mentored and had success stories, but understanding a leader's philosophy on when it's time to move someone out, because that has a huge impact on the team. It's great to give people lots of chances and you want to help build them up, but for me that's the number one thing when I'm asking someone who either is applying for a management, director, leadership role, or wants to, get there here. So that's one that I go for.
Interesting.
Max, are you asking about when from the candidate's perspective of how do they know as a sales rep that they're joining a good leader, or when we interview people for management roles?
When you interview someone for a management role.
Yeah, okay.
So you're hiring a sales manager that's leading a team.
Yeah, I go absolutely. Allie's right about the dark side. Figure out what their philosophy is on terminations, but also want to figure out their philosophy on career growth and progression, and talk about some of the people they've mentored and both been mentored by, because that'll give me a sense of whether or not somebody really cares about career growth or they just say it because they think they're supposed to for that job. If they're actually proud of people they've mentored and they want to tell you their story and tell you where they are and where they landed, that's actually a lot better than when you ask somebody, do you have a network to recruit from, which is a common sales management question. But the truth is, if you have a strong network to recruit from and it's from your last job, then that's probably what you're going to do to my sales force if you leave me. Where what I'd rather you say is, here are the people that I've worked with, here's why I've loved their career progression. When it's the right time, I would love to work with these people again. That's going to tell me a lot more.
Cool. Farlan.
Yeah, so the interesting thing is hiring a sales leader or finding a future sales leader is two very different things, right? So I actually hire reps with leadership in mind a lot of the time, and you can just tell there's a certain amount of thoughtfulness that they would be a good listener, and that is just like it is so important. Half of being a good sales manager and leader is just like a good, thoughtful listener. And then there's having a sales process. There's having past success. There's having past success, mentoring people. And then I just look for how much they talk about themselves versus how much do they talk about who they've grown and how they've grown them. So it's interesting. I haven't actually hired that many sales leaders. In most organizations, they've grown into leadership roles from very junior roles, and it's wonderful to see that career progression. It's one of the most rewarding things about the job.
Yeah, I completely agree with that philosophy. We are very committed to both personal and professional development. And at the stage that we're at today, beginning of the year, we were about 70 employees. Today, we are 250 employees. And a year from now, hopefully we have a similar trajectory to Box, and we're thousands of employees. So everybody that we hire today, one of the key things that we test for is, can they grow with the company? Can they potentially be a leader in the future? So I totally agree with that. There's a couple of things that, as we think about what defines a good leader, there's a lot of ways to think about it, but the common theme is that it's somebody who makes the people around them better. And so we focus on, asking these folks questions around, what have you done to make people around you better? So there's that, that component. The second thing that we really like to think about is, how do you manage conflict? So there could be a lot of conflict, between two reps on your team. There's definitely a nice push and pull between sales and marketing traditionally. So how do you work with your counterparts on the marketing side and other departments at the company as well? And then as we hear them talk about their prior experience, we really look for the I versus we approach. And so if this leader is sitting there and saying, I did this, and I drove revenue growth, and I built out a team, I mean, the reality is that sales would not be able to deliver something without product building it, without marketing help message it, without customer care supporting it. And so we really focus on people who think of the world as, we accomplished this, and not I accomplished it.
Awesome. And switching gears a little bit, I think we covered a lot there on the hiring side of things. Say that you actually, all right, you're great, you're the best fit for the job, you're a salesperson. How do you make sure you get the best deal possible? How do you make sure, are there any tips and tricks that you know about that you can share with the audience today that will allow them to make sure they get negotiate the best deal possible for what they can do? I mean, I know it's different at a lot of your companies. JRI, for example, I'm sure it's a lot different, from LeadGenius to AdRoll. So I'd just love to know, in everyone's experience, maybe what they've seen or what they've done in the past that might have worked. And I'll start with you, Saad.
Yeah, simple rule in life: if you don't ask, you're not going to get. So it never hurts asking. We do like to see those kind of negotiation skills. Having said that, at ZenPayroll, we don't negotiate on the actual on-target earnings component, because we want to create a very level playing field. I think we're soon going to get into a stage of the company where we're going to start thinking about level 1, level 2, level 3 sales hires, and perhaps bringing in more senior folks. So we typically don't negotiate on the on-target earnings. We have negotiated on the equity component in the past, and my advice to candidates is, don't get caught up in the couple of $1,000s of cash pay. If you're joining a startup, it's really about you believing in the growth potential, in the leadership here. So use your negotiating chips to talk about equity, and not about the cash component of it. That would be my advice.
That's good advice.
I think from my perspective, one of the things that I look for is, if someone is, I mean, there's a value of a salesperson to wanting to be successful. Being successful, I think, is a little separated from, are they just focused on how much can they make? And so I'm screening that from actually the very beginning, in the same way that they should have start the negotiation from the very beginning to understand if there's a fit. They want to make sure that this is a good fit for them based on their comp expectations. So I like to ask that up front. I like to really get a good sense of it. I like to get a sense of why that's their expectation. And if they know themselves as well as I want them to know my product, then they'll know what the right fit is and what they can ask for. I know that that's a little cryptic, so I'll say, specifically some kind of very tactical things are just to make sure you understand who the decision makers are in that process. If you're at a larger organization where you've got a recruiter to help you navigate, they're probably going to tell you a little bit about the process, right, from the very beginning. here's the process, here's how we do offers, here's who you'll meet with, etc. Because you may see that hiring manager for the last time and then get an offer from somebody else. And being able to understand that and be able to understand how you ask for value, I think, is important. To get the very best deal will often reveal that someone is thinking about money more heavily than thinking about what they want to work on. Big organizations, you're going specifically right into a vertical. Being hired for the finance vertical, you're being hired for the sporting goods vertical or whatever they're selling. Mid-sized companies, it's going to be more about managing the will I be able to have that career track and promote progression, and those are better conversations for me than just the few $1,000s like Saad mentioned. You don't want to lose a good opportunity over $5,000. You also don't want to miss out on the best career opportunity that you could by asking the questions a little bit differently and not appearing to be just money focused, because I think most candidates today are more focused on career than money.
Mm-hmm.
I like the candidates that are focused on money, 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 money. No, I'm kidding. But that's a very strong component, and if you're in sales, you should definitely be money motivated. For reps out there, and I'll speak directly to AEs. For reps out there that are trying to figure out what they can make, figure out if your sales manager is and your VP of sales has made money for their folks in the past, and how they've done that, and what that looks like, and how much that looks like. If you're quibbling over 5 or 10K on your base, it's a waste of time. I have one former team member who went to a fairly well-known tech company. He got a $700,000 commission check. He closed the deal, got a $700,000 commission check. That's a true story. It's if you align yourself with the right sales leadership that knows how to make money for their reps, if you have the right market timing, if you have the right product market fit, and you get in at the right time, 10K on base doesn't mean anything. I've had guys that were making low 5 figures that started out in very junior jobs, didn't get adjusted on base, and were making 6-7 times that from an annual commission perspective. So if you're in sales and you align yourself with the right company that's sales friendly, and that product and that product market fit is going up and to the right, you should be fine. So I actually look at if a candidate pushes back on a couple of things or asks a question about a couple of things, great. If I get 20 questions on an offer letter, I'm like, oi, here we go with management overhead, right? Like, is this going to be a headache moving forward? So be careful, right?
So where I sit, comp is totally formulaic, and that's what's so nice about sales, that you're getting paid based on expectation of what money you're going to bring in. So companies have ratios. A little bit different in the startup stage. You might have some more negotiation, like being the first salesperson there. But what you're going to negotiate on is evidence of what you've done in the past. And just having, if you have a $100,000 base salary, but you never pulled in your OTE, your on-target earnings, because you never hit quota or you never overachieved, I'm not going to care about that base salary. I'm going to look at what you actually earned. So as a salesperson, be prepared to show evidence of your W-2s. It is a very direct conversation with the recruiter. We're going to ask you, what was your base? What's your variable? What's your W-2? And you know what? You can say, if you had an off year, that's fine. Tell me what your highest W-2 was. I want to know where you performed the best, because that's what we're buying. I'm buying your track record. Now, the other thing to be said about a company at the stage we're in and what the startups will evolve to is that we use compensation studies. Radford's a big one that's out there. We pay a lot of money to find out what all companies are paying. And there's comp bands. So there is a industry norm for certain level of years, number of years of experience, the kind of work you're doing, and the direct money that you're supposed to be pulling in. Now, companies pay within those bands various amounts, and that's where, if you're going to negotiate for yourself, again, you've got to bring the I was on a 100K OTE, I W-2 400,000. Therefore, I've earned my way to ask for a little bit higher on base. I want to, be up the food chain on that, and that's fine. Talk to someone who recently, they're like, yeah, I'm at a 100K base now. I'm looking at 150 base next. We're like, well, Why? That's a huge jump. You know, what did you do to earn that? Well, you know, I'm already at 100, so now I want 150. Those people are completely whack. Like, let's look at this from a business perspective. So when you're asking about your base and variable, you should be asking in conjunction, what's my number? What's my target? How am I going to overachieve? Basically what Jay was saying. But really, going into negotiation, if you want to do best by yourself, bring your W-2s and have them be significant.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the different perspectives on that, especially coming from big company to, you know, hiring your first rep over here on, you know, Farlan's side to hiring your, what, 1,000th or something like that, or 10,000? I mean, you guys are growing like crazy.
We're not there yet. Not there yet.
You know, yeah. Well, you have more reps in probably. Yeah. She's got more reps in Dublin than you guys got in your only office, right? But one day, that's, you know, and one day you'll be there. So we're bumping up on time here, but this was awesome. We have some questions that came in. Keep sending them in on Twitter at hashtag #SHWebinar, and we'll get them answered for you. We'll post an article along with the webinar later this week, the recording. We'll have it in audio. We are transcribing everything as well, so we'll have like podcast versions and everything. It's great. Yay. But cool. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks to Hired for helping put this together, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. But thanks again, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.